Hi, this is Peter Upfold, and welcome to this screencast episode of the Stealth Mac podcast. Now in this screencast, I'm going to try and introduce the terminal within Mac OS X, show how to start it up, and introduce a few key concepts that might help you to understand what the terminal is and how to use it a bit better. Now most of the time when you're using Mac, you're interacting with the graphical user interface here, or the GUI. You click on buttons and you open menus and so on, and that's how you tell the computer what you want it to do. But that's not the only way of interacting with the computer. A command line interface, which is what the terminal is where you have a prompt and you type in commands with the keyboard. Now it's perhaps a more geeky and less intuitive at first way to use a computer, but it can prove to be very powerful for certain tasks, and people that really love the terminal can really be a lot quicker doing one particular task in it than they can with a GUI. And it certainly doesn't hurt as a Mac user to have some understanding of how the Unix command line that's underneath all the prettiness of OS X actually works, and how to use it a little bit. Even if it is just if you need to run a defaults command from time to time to change a hidden preference or something. It's useful to just have that knowledge. So let's actually start up the terminal. I'm going to show you around and show you some of the concepts very, very briefly, and sort of a very surface look at things. We're not going to go too deep here, so that maybe we can build on this later in a future screencast. So I'm just going to close this Safari window down. I've actually got the terminal up here. If you don't already have the terminal up, you can go to your hard drive, the applications folder, and inside utilities you will find terminal. And you might want to drag that to the dock if you think you're going to use it a lot, but you can find it there, and you can probably use Spotlight or whatever the other launching solution you have to launch terminal. And you'll get a window like this. As I say, here is the prompt, and it's just waiting now for me to type in a command that it can go and do. Now before we get started actually typing in commands, your display will probably have a smaller font, and you might want to just make that a little bigger, turn on the anti-aliasing, make it a bit nicer to look at. And I'm just going to show you how to do that with the preferences of the terminal. So if we go in here to the terminal menu and choose preferences, you'll see there's on the settings tab, just make sure on the settings tab, there are actually a few styles you can set up. I can actually just double click each of these and it'll open a new window in that style. What I've done, if I just find the settings window again, is I've set up this, which is my basic style, to actually be 13-point font. So what I've done there is I've just gone onto basic, click change, and you can edit the font size. Now I recommend you stay with a monospaced font like Monaco, just so you can line up the characters if you're doing a long command or something. So I wouldn't recommend anything too fancy. I think stick with Monaco, but you might want to just edit that size if you can't see it very well. And I'd also recommend turning on anti-alias text here, because it does make the text look a lot smoother, especially at the larger sizes. Now, for this particular window, I've actually got basic large. For the purpose of the screencast, I've upped the size even further to 16 point, just so you can see it if you're watching in a lower resolution. But most of the time, I use 13 point. So you can play around with all of these settings to get the terminal to look how you want, and behave a little friendlier to you if you want it a bit different. So now we've done that, here we are. We're back at this prompt, which is our command line. So let's have a look. There are a load of commands I could type in here, but there's no sort of help. If I don't know what to type in this command line, you know, I'm stuck. I don't know how to interact with this computer unless I've learnt some commands. So let's just do a basic few commands. I'm going to teach you the command pwd here. So all we need to do to run that is type in pwd and press the return key. And as you can see, that's produced some output, and it tells me /users/Peter. So pwd actually stands for print working directory, and it just says it's asking the computer, well, which folder am I in right now? And that folder I'm in right now is my home folder /users/Peter. Now in the command line in the terminal, you have this concept of being in a working directory. Any command that I run right now will happen in the context of my home folder. For example, if I said remove the file called document, it would look for a file called document in this folder. Now we can change the working directory and go to a different place in the file system and act on the files in there by using the command cd. I just need to type in cd, then I type a space, and then the folder that I want to go to. So I have a folder called let's think. I have a folder called public inside my home folder. So if I just type public, I'm going to use the capitals there just because that's conventional. You actually don't have to, but I recommend you do, just in case you move over to Linux or another system which is generally case sensitive. So I just say cd space and then the name of the folder I want to go to. And because that's inside my home folder, /user/peter/public, if I press enter, if I press enter or return, that's going to take me into the public folder. And now if I run pwd again, you can see I'm in public. So we know how to change the working directory now. If I want to go up one level of the working directory back to my home folder, I can type cd space ... and those two dots mean go up one level. So there we are, we're back now in my home folder. We can just verify that. Now this obviously works for full paths as well, so if I wanted to change directory into the library folder at the root of the hard drive, I'd do cd space /, that means this isn't a relative path, you're going all the way up to the top of the hard drive and then going down into library. And I could run to pwd there, and you see we're outside of the user's Peter bit now. But for now I'm just going to type cd. If you type cd on its own, if you type cd on its own, it will take you back to your home folder automatically. So there we are, we're back to /users/Peter now. Okay, so we've learnt how to navigate around and just be in the right folder for doing something. But on its own that's not particularly useful, because all you're doing is like opening folders in the Finder and not doing anything with them. So what we're going to now do is learn how to use the command ls. And ls gives you a listing of the files in the current working directory. So just before I do that, I'm going to run the command clear, which just clears the screen of all the previous commands so we don't get confused between the old ones. Right, so let's have a look now at the command ls, which stands for list. If I just run ls here in my home directory and then press enter, I get a list here of all of the files and folders. There are just folders, as it happens in this folder, that are in the working directory. So you can see I've got applications, I've got DMGs and downloads and all the folders you'd expect to find in my home directory. And this is exactly the same process as you would do by looking at a folder in the Finder. You can just see what's in that folder. If we do the example of going up to the root level library again, so cd /library will take us into that folder. We can just verify that we're there. Now if I run ls in the library, you can see there's a different set of folders, and we can see all the different items inside the library folder. So there we go. Now we can navigate through the file system and list the directory and see what files and folders are in it. So that's good. If I'm just now going to cd back to my home directory by issuing the command cd on its own and clear the display out again.